So over the past few weeks, the City of Toronto Twitter account tweeted that we may be subjected to a $300 fine if we consume alcohol in Toronto parks and beaches. And these tweets always create a discussion with a lot of very polarizing remarks, but the vocal majority on Twitter are all for getting rid of this bylaw, so what gives? Why isn't Toronto budging on this law? Well, a few weeks ago, Brad Ross, the Chief Communication Officer for the City of Toronto, did an AMA on Reddit. The top upvoted question was regarding this bylaw. His response? The issue, frankly, isn't someone enjoying a cold beer or a glass of wine. It's the excessiveness, organized parties with cases of beer being brought onto the beach or into parks. The city has no interest in ticketing someone having a beer, to which many users replied, well, wait a second, don't we already have laws against drunk and disorderly conduct? Why do we need additional bylaws to cushion that? Even our Mayor John Tory has gone on to say, now isn't the time to discuss that, but it actually is the time to talk about this, since many want to enjoy a nice, cold, alcoholic beverage outside, but don't want to be stuck on a crowded patio during a pandemic. You know what's kind of funny is how people are saying enjoy a glass of wine in the park just to make it seem more calm and civilized, and not many people are really saying like cracking open a cold beer in the park, because that's what I'd be doing. So the police are being told to use their discretion when it comes to seeing people drinking in the park, and last weekend actually people reported being ticketed during a blitz at Trinity Bellwoods. So even though it's all over the place in Toronto, there are other cities around the world that are allowing people to drink in public spaces and always have for quite a while. For example, in Montreal, just reading this now, you're allowed to drink in parks, but only with a meal. And they do mean a proper meal, so obviously a bag of chips or a chocolate bar just ain't gonna cut it. And a few days ago, actually, Vancouver City Council voted for allowing alcohol consumption in 22 parks in the city. However, there's no official start date on that because they need to come up with the proper legislation first. However, back in June, North Vancouver did pass a bylaw to allow drinking in some of their parks. There's like a little squirrel behind me. I don't know if you can see it or not. Hey, squirrely. What you doing? What you doing, buddy? And that squirrel's actually probably bigger than my dog. So over in England, public drinking is allowed in most places as the laws are more against people being drunk and disorderly or exhibiting antisocial behaviors. However, there actually are areas where police can ask you to not drink. From my understanding though, it's not illegal to drink in those designated areas, but the police are allowed to ask you to stop drinking or to move away from that area. Oh, it's sunny. When did the sun come out? And in parts of Europe, such as in Spain, Italy, and France, public drinking is actually legal and allowed in most spaces, with most laws in place to prevent minors from drinking and to discourage disorderly conduct. And as for our neighbors down south in the US, each state has their own set of laws. Cities like Las Vegas, Indianapolis, and New Orleans allow public drinking as long as your beverage is in a glass container. But generally in the States, most places prohibit it, just like here in Canada. So why is Toronto so hesitant to allow us to drink in public spaces such as parks? You know, I'm not so sure. Drinking outdoors in a socially spaced setting such as a park is currently the safest way to enjoy a beverage with a friend, especially with Phase 3 happening here so soon. In fact, parts of the US had to actually close down their bars because of huge spikes in cases. Inside bars and even some of those smaller patios, it's just not ideal to have a drink and socialize with those in your bubbles. It's just not spaced out enough. I personally think it's become more of a political issue. Also, there were too many people walking around the park, so I came back up. So there are laws already in place to prevent people from having giant outdoor parties or getting rowdy in public spaces and parks. But the question is, why is the city cracking down on small groups or couples just enjoying a drink in the park? It just really doesn't make a lot of sense, and they've got to chuck this bylaw out. Hopefully this video is old news someday and we can all go out and enjoy a glass of wine in the park or crack open a beer. But remember folks, keep safe, wear your mask, follow the rules.